What we see, sure enough, depends both on what we look at and what the previous visual concept experience taught us to see. Our generations for centuries have the omnipresent spinning ball concept impressed as the only possibility for us to exist. Anything that is not included in this paradigm is out of any chance, out of society, of logic, of the world. Yet, the globalist elite is pleased to reveal the flat earth model. Freemasons have an obligation to truth that they adhere throughout symbols and messages disseminated everywhere. In movies, in cartoons, on the web, on the Illuminati card, Underground Zero, and in the United Nations logo. And if they don't know what the shape of Earth is, who does? Here's everything that doesn't add up in the current spherical model. Let's try to explain it to a child that asks, why don't the people in the South Pole fall off? Because gravity keeps them to the ground, answers the school teacher. And from that day the child will want nothing more to know of this ancient intuition, original, sacred doubt. If he tried in adult age, he would be invaded with such a quantity of formulas and mathematical equations to get struck forever. The force of gravity is a theory, not reality. What passes for law of gravity can be explained with the concepts of density and buoyancy. An object denser than air will fall towards the floor. One less dense will tend to float. Let's hear what Einstein says about Nikola Tesla, one of the greatest and noble geniuses of all times.
How does it feel to be the smartest person on Earth? Well, you should ask Nikola Tesla about that.
Now let's hear what Tesla says about gravity.
The theory of relativity wraps all these errors and fallacies and clothes them in magnificent mathematical garb, which fascinates, dazzles, and makes people blind to the underlying errors. The theory is like a beggar clothed in purple, whom ignorant people take for a king.
Because the law of gravity is just the theoretic instrument to justify the impossible roundness of the terrestrial surface and hide the true physiognomy of the universe. Dear child, they told you that the Earth is spherical. Okay, but can you see it? Who knows? Surely not looking at the horizon. Nor from the window of a plane. Or from an amateur high-altitude balloon. As you can see, in all these cases, Earth is evidently flat. Yeah, sure, you might see it in an altered images from NASA, but we analyze these in the prefix. They are artifact, CGI, or filmed with a deforming fish island. Here's NASA's globe, rotating with motionless clouds. This is the time-lapse of the terrestrial lights with a lot of special effects on lights. Storms, aurora borealis, ridiculous. And here's an example of a fish-eye Earth. So, it's all artifact.
Evolution isn't the only thing we are being lied to about. The Earth under our feet has been molded into a spinning ball that is a byproduct of the Big Bang, which is a theory that was introduced to science in 1931. In the Big Bang cosmology, the Earth is a rotating sphere orbiting around the Sun. The issue is that the motion of the Earth has never been detected, and here we are in the year 2016 looking for the curvature of our world, which also can't seem to be measured. Mainstream science using theory after problematic theory to try and prove another theory isn't science at all. Real science will reveal a stationary Earth that's turning out to be quite flat, with a sun that's much closer than we are told. Despite what you hear, flat earthers aren't anti-science at all. We just don't condone what mainstream science has become, and that's a faith-based religion swarming with lies and ludicrous theories that have never been proven.
A quote by Tesla: "Today's scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments. They wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality." That's what happened with the globe theory. Everybody knew the world was flat until one day some guy came along and said, "Oh no, it's a ball. We're spinning through space."
Things that people hold dear and call fact, like gravity, like the age of the universe, the universe formation itself, the age of the Earth, they're all dependent on things that are unproven. While they're good to consider, we should consider everything. You have allowed them to become facts that appear in our textbooks taught by professors to kids as facts.
The argument for all practical purposes came to an end when the Church of England was established by law during the 16th century. They embraced many radical scientific notions prevalent at the time, including Copernicus' round earth theory. With this endorsement, the theory found its way into the schools, which were then largely controlled by the Church. It has remained there to this day, and many children have accepted it without question.
Life is much simpler on a flat plane. There's no complex theories or complicated mathematics involved in it. The flat plane. There's sea level is level. Everywhere you go at sea level it's sea level. There's no bending the ocean around a spinning ball. It's level. It's water finds its level and it maintains. You can't bend it around the ball.
It's a commonly held misconception that the Earth is a spherical object that revolves around the Sun. But the fact is, of course, that the Earth is a circular dish surrounded by a barrier of ice that explorers have been attempting to penetrate for centuries.
What if gravity isn't real? What if the Earth is in fact flat and science has been wrong all along?
Everything that you've been taught is a lie.
Pink Floyd and many other bands have tried to warn us about this wall that supposedly separates our district from others. We will show you a very curious map that depicts the separation and probably the wall itself. A map drawn by cartoonist Vince White shows clearly two different worlds separated by a ring of ice, or a wall of ice.
To be a no man's land, but these are the days when, by buying a ticket on a commercial airliner, you can fly across the North Pole and drink a cocktail at the same time. You know, in 30 or more years ago, about 35 years ago, our guest tonight found out whether there was any land north of the North American continent. He made that first discovery flight, and I must say that Admiral Byrd, our guest tonight, is not only our greatest living explorer, but he's been an inspiration to countless Americans. Admiral Byrd, you've been to both the North Pole and the South Pole. Is there any unexplored land left on this earth that might appeal to adventurous young Americans?
Yes, there is. And not up around the North Pole, because it's getting crowded up there now, because they find out it's really usable, not only to live in, but militarily. But strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole on the other side of the South Pole from Little America. And I think it's quite astonishing that there should be an area as big as that unexplored.
That's a tremendous
So
job.
there's a lot of adventure left down at the bottom.
We will complete this prefix with the explanation of Robert Simon, the NASA employee that created the last blue marble model we have available.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green. There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit. It is Photoshop. It is Photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
There was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere. It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water. Just what I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it. It is Photoshopped, but it has to be. It is Photoshopped. It is Photoshopped, but it has to be. It is Photoshopped, but it has to be.
So the image of Earth that we have available is reconstructed, altered, composited. In a precise word, fake. What does it take to create fake digitals when you have the best technology on hands? All it takes is a blue screen or a zero-gravity plane, and you're on. Here's what they purposely show you from the camera that is filming ex-President Bush's visit at NASA. A freshly modified image and a chromatic screen. The chromatic screen is an instrument used to substitute the color of the background with any scenarios. In CGI, computer-generated image, you can access the the ISS that isn't there. The trick consists of letting air bubbles float. Here is the game, and here's the trick. They show it to us themselves. Or we can take a walk on space. Let's take the Chinese, and we have bubbles here too, traveling undisturbed. Could they be in an exercise swimming pool? You can create a puppet out of nowhere, when the insolence has no limit, or show the hidden side of the moon, when the bad taste is without shame. All rigorously modified, digitalized, fake. Why not show authentic pictures? Probably because they don't exist. Till this day, it is not possible to have an authentic picture of Earth. We can just see the comparison of the sizes they show us to understand they don't even have the same reference. Supposedly, a scientist took this picture in space, but all you have to do is raise a little the luminosity and we find out the trick. A rectangular cut, this image has been added.
So many times during spacewalks outside the International Space Station, we can see air bubbles rising up. Can you touch on how there are air bubbles in space?
Can you be more specific? Air bubbles?
So yeah, like a lot of times during the footage, the NASA footage, you can see bubbles coming up out of the helmets or kind of from underneath you. How do you explain bubbles in space?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're talking about. Now, sometimes you get water in the helmet, and it comes either from sweat or from the cooling garments, and that's generally what that is. I've never seen any kind of air bubble anywhere.
Could it be that you're filming in an underwater pool and you're not really out there?
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something.